Hey everybody, this is attorney Joe Murphy with Allegheny Immigration Group. I have some important information for you if you or someone you care about is applying for the Liberian Green Card. USCIS is cracking down on the continuous presence requirement of the Liberian Green Card Program. As you're probably aware, one of the things you have to prove to get the Liberian Green Card is that you've been continuously present in the United States since November 20th, 2014. In the past, in similar programs, we would simply submit a copy of all pages of the applicant's passport. It would have an entry stamp showing the date of entry and no stamps entering any other countries after that. I don't know why, but in the Liberian program, USCIS is requiring more than the passport pages to prove continuous presence. If you're thinking about filed, or if you have already filed, even through my office, you're going to need to give them more than just copies of your passport. If you filed with just the copies of the passport pages, you're going to get a request for additional evidence. It's no big deal. They give you plenty of time to supply the additional evidence, but you're going to need to get the additional documentation together. And that is whether you've already filed or you're planning on filing. In this video, I'm going to give you some tips and guidance on the sorts of additional evidence you can submit, which USCIS will accept to prove continuous presence. I'm also going to give you tips on how to get it and how to get it easy. You could submit that additional evidence with your application for a Liberian Green Card. If you've already applied for a Liberian Green Card, you can start getting that information together for when that request for additional evidence comes in. Whatever you do, don't panic. Even if you got one of those requests for evidence today, they give you about 2.5 months to respond to it. I'm making this video to warn you about the crackdown and get you ahead of it. So let's get into it. USCIS publishes a list of examples of stuff that you can use to prove continuous presence. And believe it or not, the passport with stamps is the first thing on the list. In particular, the list is very confusing. They don't tell you why they want it or how it would prove continuous presence. You might wonder why a record of a doctor's office in March of 2019 can be evidence that you were continuously present in the United States. The legal standard, which is set forth in the USCIS policy manual, is that the evidence has to be probative. So none of this stuff conclusively proves anything, but it tends to prove that you were here. They want more evidence tending to prove that you were continuously present. Come along with me in this video. I'm going to show you easy ways to get that done. But on that point, any records that tend to prove you were in the United States at any point in time tend to prove that you were continuously present. The fact that you bought a house in the United States in 1999 and are still living there today tends to prove that you were continuously present. And at the same time, even if you only have evidence for some of the year, if you have, for example, a tax return in 2013 and another one in 2015 and didn't file in between, that tends to prove that you were there in the period in between those as well. On a related issue, it's unclear whether USCIS is going to interview anybody or everybody in the Liberian program. Guidance on their website says USCIS may interview applicants under the Liberian program, but it's not clear yet if they're going to do interviews at all. If they do call you in for an interview, you should take the originals into the interview with them, just in case the USCIS officer wants to examine the originals. So it's clear, however, that a passport stamp showing entry and no other stamps after that is not enough to satisfy the continuous presence requirement. It's unclear at this time how much is enough. I doubt you have to provide every single thing on there. All right, so here is the official list. This is right off the USCIS website, and you see there are a bunch of different things they're asking for. Passport is at the top, and they go through other things as you go down the list. Some of the stuff may or may not exist for you. Some of the stuff may not exist at all. Some of the stuff may be easy for you to get. I'm going to go over the different things now and give you my ideas on how you might get each and every one of them. All right, the first one is the copy of the passport with the immigrant visa. If you're one of our clients, we've already submitted that, but you definitely should do that. That's the first thing on the list. Copy all pages of your passport. That way they can see when you entered and that you didn't go anywhere else afterwards. The I-94 used to be give you a little piece of paper showing your period of authorized stay in the United States, and that would be printed on a form I-94. Not everybody gets those anymore. You may or may not have got one when you came in. They usually tuck it in your passport. You may have lost it. You can get a duplicate of your I-94 online. This is one of the easiest things to get. It's right online. I'm going to put the address where you can look up your most recent I-94 on the screen. And when you get to that, you're going to click on the Get My I-94 tab at the top of the screen, and then you'll put in your personal information, and you'll be able to get your most recent entry into the United States and any other ins and outs, and that's great. You should print that out and get that ready. The next thing on the list is income tax records. And not everybody has these. Not every Liberian had work privileges. You may not have them for all the years in question, or you may have them for some of the years. If you have filed income taxes in the United States at all ever, and you can get those records, you should print those out and hand them in, either to me if I'm representing you or with your application, if you're representing yourself. Obviously, if you've got a different lawyer than me, that's fine, but you should give it to them then. If you didn't keep a copy of your income tax return, that's fine. Not everybody does. But if you used a tax preparation service, a Jackson Hewitt or H&R Block, you probably call them, and they might charge you a nominal fee to print out a new copy. But if you've ever filed U.S. tax returns for any years, get them into me. All right, the next thing on the list is mortgage deeds or leases. Well, everybody lives somewhere, and there's usually a record of that. If you rented, particularly if you rented from a big company that had like a property management office, they probably have records of you living there. But you could call those property management offices and or private landlords and ask if they have a copy of your lease. Or if you lived at the same place all along, those would be great evidence that you were continuously present. Next thing on the list is insurance premiums or policies. Did you have auto insurance during the years in question? Many people change cars but keep the same insurance company, and a lot of these insurance companies, particularly Geico, lets you go online and print out your policy history. That can be a very convenient and very easy way to get some more proof of continuous physical presence for any years in question, any years at all in the United States. That helps. So go online and print out a policy history. Utility bills is another one. A lot of times, particularly if you stay within the same city, you may move your address, but you might keep the same utility account number. If you talk to your gas or electric provider, they probably have a record of you paying bills all along. They also list birth, marriage, and death certificates to prove you're here. I mean, obviously, if you're dead, you're not here anymore. But if you had children born in the United States, that would usually be good proof that you were here when they were born. Marriage certificates in the United States, even divorce certificates would prove you were here because you have to be here to get those issued. Medical records are another really rich source for proof. Most medical facilities have to keep records of all treatment for 7 years, and many of them, particularly big hospitals, have centralized records departments, and you can call them up and go through the procedure. They probably want a HIPAA release, and they're probably going to charge you a small fee, but they can give you records of all treatments you had there. And again, you don't have to be there every day. The idea is that the fact that you were treating in the United States for regular colds and sniffles, maybe a broken leg or something like that, proves that you were here. Bank records is next on the list, and that could also be a very easy thing to do. Most banks have online banking. You can go online and get printouts of every statement back in time, and those statements, again, they don't prove you were here, but they certainly prove you have an account here and that you were depositing and withdrawing money, that you were using it to pay for other things here, and you were depositing income earned from work here into that account. School records are excellent. Schools keep records for a very long time. Call up your old school. If you attended any schooling at all in the United States, that could be a trade school, a high school, a grade school, a college, anything like that, they'll have records. Call them up and ask for an academic transcript. Again, they may charge you a small fee, and it may take a week or two, but those are great records that you were here. They list some other nonsense here. One of them says any receipts. Maybe if you bought an expensive car or a fur coat or expensive computer, there'd be a receipt issued with your name on it. Another good source for that information not listed in this list is your credit card receipts. If you were inside the United States buying things with your credit card, paying for lunches or trips or whatever you're charging up with groceries, those things all tend to prove you were here. You can talk to your credit card company. They may be able to produce complete records of all your purchases. Now, census records, I've been a lawyer for 20 years. I'm not sure how you'd use census records to prove your continuous presence. I'm not even sure if the census keeps a record of who's filling it out. Perhaps they give a receipt for people who comply with census directives. I don't know, but the last census was in 2010. If you have something like that, you'd know, but I can't give you any guidance on how to use that. Social Security is another rich source here because they're online and they're easy to use. When you work legally in the United States, your employer takes a little tiny bit out of every paycheck, sends it to Social Security. It's supposed to be there for your retirement. You can go online and get a printout of every time someone took money out of your U.S. paycheck and deposited it into the Social Security fund. So Social Security is really good because you can go online. It's a free account. You can get that today, and that'll be great proof. Print that out. Send that in. We need it. Employment records are similar to Social Security, related to working. Most people in this country, unless they're independently wealthy, have to work, and work generates a lot of records. So this is a great place to look and get documentation to prove that continuous presence problem. Employment records. All right, so a really neat one was one of my original Liberian clients. He worked for an employer that printed a pay stub. And the pay stub, each and every pay stub had the words employee since and a date in 2013 printed on it. You might want to look at it. If you get a paper pay stub mailed to you, or if those pay stubs are, like they are in most companies, emailed to you, look at your last pay stub. It might have employee since on it, and that could be very valuable in proving you've been continuously present. So print those pay stubs out and get them to me if they have that kind of information. Another thing you could do is talk to your human relations department or payroll department at your employer and ask for verification that you've been employed there continuously since whatever. And it doesn't have to be back to 2014. Military records, it's odd that that's on the list because I'm pretty sure you can't enlist in the U.S. military unless you have at least a green card. And this is a program to get the green card. Draft records, that's the selective service system. Males 18 to 25 in the United States generally are required to register for the draft. You can go online, there's an online portal for that. You can go online and look up your draft registration records. If you want for fun, you can look mine up. My draft registration number is 690966593-4. Car registrations, that's another easy one. If you had a car, there'd be records of that registration. You might want to talk to your State Department of Motor Vehicles. Ask for a list of all cars that have been registered to you. And the last thing on the list is union membership. If you've been in a union, that would be similar to employment records, military records, things like that, records of regular working and so on. With a union, it would be records of paying your dues. You want to talk to your shop steward or your union rep, see if that kind of record can be produced. So it looks like a real pain in the backside, and it could be overwhelming at first. But if you take these steps, probably a third of this stuff you can get with a few mouse clicks, the rest of it a few phone calls. Don't worry if you can't get everything. More, I guess, is better. I wouldn't necessarily send me 20 pounds of paper, but if I'm representing you in a Liberian green card, even if we've already filed, I'm going to need you to go get this stuff because USCIS is demanding it in the Liberian cases. You're going to have plenty of time. Even if an RFE came today, they usually give about 87 days to respond to that. So you're going to have plenty of time to get this together. As I said, a few mouse clicks will get you half of the stuff, and the rest of it you can do with a few phone calls. They're cracking down on the continuous physical presence requirement in Liberian cases, so let's get ahead of them and be ready when they come with it. This is Joe Murphy with Allegheny Immigration Group. Thank you for watching.